I think Pete Carroll is smart. I think John Schneider is smart. And I think this is the dumbest calculation I've ever seen from any team ever.
That's dead ass wrong, right? Like, that's dead ass wrong. Like, this is a league that includes the Detroit Lions. So it's one thing to be wrong. It's another thing to be dead ass wrong. Like, I was wrong about Geno Smith in that I thought he would be the starter when the Seahawks season began. I didn't think he'd be the starter when he ended the year, and I certainly didn't think he was going to be a candidate to be a starting quarterback for that team going forward. I was not, however, dead ass wrong. Like this guy, Adam Schein from CBS Sports.
On to Seattle, where basically everything surrounding the Seahawks and their quarterback situation just makes me sad. This is the most embarrassing, saddest, pathetic quarterback competition of all time between Drew Lock and Geno Smith.
So this is from August. He's not alone in that opinion. And I think a lot of people looked at it and were like, they're not going to find their starter here. Why are they doing this? They don't have Russell Wilson. I'm not going to tell you that I thought it was a great quarterback competition, but I thought it was a good process in this. They looked at it and decided, of all the quarterbacks we could go and get this year, of all the quarterbacks this offseason after you trade Russell Wilson that you could go and get, whether it's trading some of the picks you got from Denver for another quarterback or drafting a quarterback or getting one of the guys that's available on the market, which I would say Baker Mayfield, Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz. Garoppolo is on that list, though he didn't change teams. Like, of all those guys, Seattle was like, I don't think any of them are significantly better than Drew Lock or Geno Smith. I think we have a competition between those two guys. They didn't spend any resources on it. Like, Geno Smith's on a pretty affordable contract, and Drew Lock was one of three players. I would actually probably say is he the least valuable? He was one of three players in a draft package where the picks were the most valuable thing that they got for Russell Wilson. So I looked at it and I was like, okay, they decided they're not going to get their starting quarterback this offseason. They decided out of all those things, they weren't going to use their first-round pick that they got from Denver on it or one of the 2 second-round picks they had. They're going to wait. They'll see how these guys will be a bridge quarterback, essentially. I didn't hate the idea. I didn't think they were going to end up with their long-term quarterback, but I didn't think that was a terrible process. If Baker Mayfield turns out to be a Pro Bowler or Matt Ryan sort of has the rejuvenation season, then you can look back and say, yeah, you should have gone and got one of those guys. But that's kind of not what's happened. But the difference here is between wrong and dead ass wrong, right? Like, wrong is, it turns out that Geno Smith's really good and you underestimated him. Dead ass wrong is, this is a terrible decision that has no chance of success. I didn't think it was likely to succeed, but I didn't think it was the dumbest thing ever. Let's continue.
And I mean, it's brutal. And Drew Lock had COVID, so he didn't play in the second preseason game. And Geno Smith played, and he looked like Geno Smith. And the Seahawks are a disaster. This is where hope goes to die. And Kenneth Walker's out indefinitely. And the fact that you have two quarterbacks vying to be QB1 replacing Russell Wilson, and neither one, Smith or Lock, is a top 40 quarterback in the NFL, absolutely pathetic. I think Pete Carroll is smart. I think John Schneider is smart. And I think this is the dumbest calculation I've ever seen from any team ever.
That's dead ass wrong, right? Like, that's dead ass wrong. Like, this is a league that includes the Detroit Lions. It includes a league with massive quarterback busts where teams have traded up to get a guy that's not worked out. Huge signings. Look, there's wrong, and then there's, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen, and it turns out that actually it's worked fairly well. And I think what's been lost in media, and sports media specifically, is that not only does it not matter when you're wrong, you're actually coached and pushed to say more declarative, demonstrative, put a point on what you're saying. To be bold. The term that people always used was cuts through. You want something that cuts through. You want an opinion, what you say, to cut through. So what you end up doing is exaggerating your point. Or this is something that I don't think is going to work becomes, this is the worst decision I've ever seen by any team ever. And there's a difference between those two things. When you communicate with someone and you tell them, I don't think this is going to work, but we'll see, that's different than saying this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen a team do. And when you get on that sort of soapbox or make that sort of point, it should mean something. And if it turns out that the dumbest thing you've ever seen any team do ever turns out to work, how am I supposed to take you seriously after that? I don't know Adam Schein. I've never met him. I'm pretty sure that I've never spoken with him. But I worked as a newspaper reporter covering the NFL for 9 seasons, and then I worked on radio, daily sports radio in Seattle for 8 years. So it's possible that I have crossed paths with him and I don't remember it, but I don't. So it isn't personal. But when you say something like that and it turns out to be wrong, like it's really hard for me to take you seriously after that. It's not about being wrong or always being right. I am constantly wrong. I was wrong about Geno Smith. Like, clearly, I was wrong. But I wasn't dead-ass wrong, right? Like, and when you're dead-ass wrong, that should actually mean something. And if you're dead-ass wrong a lot or multiple times and you declare that this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen ever and it turns out to work, like that should be taken into account in evaluating whether or not I want to consume your content, whether or not I want to listen to you anymore. And I feel like the exact opposite is happening with media companies. That with more platforms, which is the term everyone uses for whether your video content is being circulated on YouTube, Twitter, how you're using TikTok, plus if you're someone like Colin Cowherd with a radio program that's also being aired on FS1, like all of those different sort of things. The goal of it is you've got to have something that cuts through. People are being pushed to say things more dogmatically or more forcefully. And on the other end of it, okay, if that happens, there should be accountability is a stupid word because it's not like you're going to lose anything for making a wrong prediction, except credibility. And I think credibility is important. And I think people are being pushed or maybe naturally deciding to say these things more forcefully because they don't think there's any consequence to it. Okay, I want something that'll cut through, and if I'm wrong, it'll just evaporate into the ether because there's 20 or 30, there's 100 other people that are pushing out their opinions that are just as dogmatic, and when you're wrong, it just, poof, vamoose, it's gone. And that's just saying that, okay, the news cycle works the way it does. Like there are instances of people actually manipulating the record to eliminate instances in which they were wrong or make themselves look smarter. Like that's clearly not happening here because I'm an idiot who screenshots things from August on the Twitter account for CBS Sports so I can go back and look and like, let's see how this turned out. Let's see how the end of it, how it turned out.
What? It's one thing to trade Russ, and we argue that was the right move, the only move. I would have cut the cord a year ago. Drew Lock, Geno Smith. You don't trade for Mayfield or Garoppolo or draft Pickett or Malik Willis. What the hell's going on here? It's just sad.
I think that's true. It is sad. Like that video is sad. I'm sad for you, man. And I don't know. Maybe the consequences are so divorced from what is actually being said that it just won't matter. And everybody's going to talk out of their ass. And it's not going to matter when you're dead ass wrong because there's so many other people that are dead ass wrong. But I don't know. It should affect your credibility. I think. Like, if you're really certain, like I am 100% certain about this, and it turns out that you're absolutely dead wrong, like that means a lot more to me than, hey, I think it's a coin flip, could go either way. I think this will work out poorly for Seattle. Or I don't agree. I don't think this is likely to work, but I don't see a better option. Like when you're like, you should sign Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield's 1-4, and he's not playing right now because of a sprained ankle, because of an ankle injury. And they just, PJ Walker, the guy that played in the XFL, like he won a game. They ended up beating Tom and the Bucks. Matt Ryan got benched for Sam Ehlinger. Like all of these, there wasn't Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis. Maybe one of them will turn out good, but Pickett has threw 2 picks that cost him a chance to win the game in Miami. Like right now, it doesn't look like there was a better option for Seattle than Geno Smith, let alone the fact that Smith is actually pretty good. We'll see if I have more accountability lessons going forward. You can check out my newsletter, which is called The Dang Apostrophe. That's available via Substack. You can also follow me on Twitter, DannyO'Neill.com. Check back here pretty soon.